Look, my province of Alberta has gotten a raw deal, particularly from Justin Trudeau's Liberals. But I've seen over my term in public service, Alberta just suffering from many systemic inequities in Confederation. And I know the mandate that I received from my constituents here in Calgary Nose Hill was to fight for fairness for Alberta, to fight for a better deal, and to fight hard for this, to not back down, to be bold, and to push things in the right direction. And that's why last year I published something called the Buffalo Declaration. And look, it was pretty spicy. There was a lot of policy in there. It made national news. It created a lot of discussion and a lot of dialogue. And many of you support a lot of the principles in there, particularly those of you who live in my community, because you know that there needs to have change. The change needs to happen in order for Alberta to have a fair deal and bold change. Now, since the Buffalo Declaration has been published, I've never backed down. I've never once backed down, no matter what the public pressure was saying, no matter internal pressure, external pressure. I have always fought for Alberta. It has always been my number one priority. Why? Because I represent 120,000 Albertans. And as much as I have a responsibility to also act on other policy issues on behalf of all Canadians, my constituents come first. And that's why I published the Buffalo Declaration. So exciting news for those of you who have been following this, because one of the recommendations that we included in the Buffalo Declaration was made real today. And it's with regard to the Fiscal Stabilization Program. So Conservative Party leader Erin O'Toole is in Calgary today and just made real one of the recommendations that was in the Buffalo Declaration. And I want to explain it to you for those of you who perhaps aren't familiar with the Fiscal Stabilization Program, so that when you hear about it on the news today, you'll understand what it is. So the Fiscal Stabilization Program has existed in Canada for decades, and it's meant to provide payments to provinces who experience sudden shocks to their economies and to drops in their revenue, which certainly has been true for Alberta. So today the program is triggered if total revenues decline by more than 5%, and if either non-resource revenues decline by more than 5%, or resource revenues decline by more than 50%. But, and here's the big problem, and here's the big fairness piece for Alberta, these payments are currently capped by a ceiling, meaning that they are not unlimited. Previously, the payments were capped to $60 a person, and recently the federal government increased that cap. But Alberta has long argued, and other provinces now agree, that the cap should be removed and should be applied retroactively. And many other provinces, as well as Alberta, have argued for reforms. In the provincial premiers meeting last year, this was discussed, and Trudeau has steadfastly avoided talking about this, even though it's come as a request from the provinces themselves. So today, Erin O'Toole announced what was one of the many points in the Buffalo Declaration, which was to address this and rectify this big gap in the Fiscal Stabilization Program, which is supported by the provinces. And this announcement matters a lot. If Conservatives form government, what Erin O'Toole said today essentially is that the province of Alberta stands to gain significantly from this policy. Not only would the cap on payments be removed and the threshold reduced, the payments would be retroactive, recognizing the economic crisis that our province has gone through, and giving Alberta significantly more money than it sends to be, giving Alberta more of the money it sends to Ottawa so that it could be used here in our own province. And some of the calculations that have been applied to this is that if this would come into effect, that's about $4 billion for Alberta. Now, when you think about how much money Justin Trudeau has thrown around the rest of the country while steadfastly ignoring Western Canada, even if you live somewhere else in the country, this is not good for you. We need to have fairness in Confederation in order for it to be sustainable and equitable and for all Canadians to benefit. So today's announcement by Mr. O'Toole and the Conservative Party of Canada certainly is a step in the right direction. It's a really refreshing one, and it certainly is a contrast from Justin Trudeau's visit to Calgary yesterday, this whistle-stop word salad of lip service. This is a material big change. I also want to talk to you guys, because many of you will write into my office. You've asked about the Buffalo Declaration, and I often see comments on my Facebook page or in my inbox talking about whether or not individual members of parliament or if individuals and communities can make a difference, one voice at a time. And today's announcement, making one of the policy items of the Buffalo Declaration real into a mainstream political party policy, shows that individual voices can matter. I'm really proud of the fact that my community gave me a mandate to fight hard for these types of changes, and that recommendation is now part of the Conservative Party's official platform going into an election that Justin Trudeau may call any time if you listen to what the reports are out of Ottawa. So this is a big step in the right direction. Now, more work needs to be done, but again, I'm proud of the work that I've done, the work that I've fought for. In fact, many of the items that are in the Buffalo Declaration are now starting to become part of mainstream political thought. I even had a Conservative colleague take items that are similar that were announced today and put it into a private member's bill. So it just goes to show that sometimes when you put forward a big idea, people don't like to hear it. People like silence. They like the status quo, effective, especially when it benefits them. But when you do have good ideas, when the community asks for something and we champion it, even in spite of criticism or in spite of people telling you to be quiet, change happens. Sometimes doesn't happen overnight, but when we fight and we stand up for what we believe in, we can affect change. So this is a big deal, guys, especially for those of you who are watching from Alberta. It's really good news from our province. And Aaron is the first political party leader that has come to Alberta and made a significant announcement that could benefit our province should the Conservative Party form government. Now, again, I just have to emphasize that this is one of the recommendations that was in the Buffalo Declaration. So for those of you who followed, it's progress. It's a step in the right direction. More work needs to be done, but our voices are being heard. Working hard for you in Calgary, please share this video because I think it's pretty good news. Have a great day.